benefit from the pioneering work that women like Robyn have laid down, and I very much appreciate the things that that Robyn is doing in our community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you, Robyn, and you can take it away. We'll stop presenting, and you can just present your screen, and you've got the mic.
All right, let me just find my window here. All right, 1 second. Okay, let me see. Hold on 1 second. I'm wondering if there is a present. Let's see. 1 second. I'm just going to actually.
Yeah, we're seeing your screen okay. I think under view in Acrobat, there's a presentation mode.
That was what I was looking for.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Can everyone see that?
Yep. Looks
good. Okay, so everyone can hear me, see me really well?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to move our Zoom screen so it's off to the side there. Okay, here we go. All right. So we are here today to talk about how to successfully network and secure potential partners. Hold on. There we go. So a little bit about me, and in the breakout session, I swear the guy was like, you're going to hear this twice. So I actually have had what I call a very interesting career. I kind of had a double life, double career. One side of my career started out in the cosmetics world as a makeup artist, working my way all the way up to helping to run companies from education, sales, marketing, biz dev standpoint, pivoted into tech, more focused on business development, PR, marketing, and whatnot. I have dabbled in the co-working space, as well as various other industries and companies, and all the while, I'll say that for the past 15 years, I have been very focused in the women's advocacy space. So doing a lot of stuff from a volunteer, let's say side hustle area. And so I've actually lived in 2 continents, 3 countries, and 8 cities over the course of probably about like 25, 30 years now. If that gives away my age, I'm turning 50 this year. I'm just going to throw it out there. And I'm excited and like freaked out by it all at the same time. So I started in the women's advocacy space, specifically as one of the first executive directors for Girls in Tech. This is 2008. I founded the Los Angeles chapter for Girls in Tech in December of 2008. And so really helped to lay the groundwork for that chapter. We were probably one of the most active chapters in the entire country. But as life would have it, and being married to an entrepreneur, we were whisked away to Sao Paulo, Brazil. But I decided to get involved with that startup entrepreneur community, launched my own initiative called Girls on It in 2010, and did a series of events highlighting women in that ecosystem. And so that was just a really fun 4-year run there. Upon returning to, or I should say moving to Salt Lake City, I was one of the first executive committee volunteers for Womenpreneurs. Not sure if many of you know that organization, but they've been around for a while, and it's been, ebbs and flows in terms of being active in our community. Obviously, we've been managing, the likes of this pandemic for the past couple of years. And while I was actually the managing director of the Impact Hub, I produced something called Women's Week 2 years in a row, where we had a week-long programming highlighting different women in politics, tech, startup, health and wellness, all different types of industries. And then finally, I started W Collective in 2019. We were first focused as a digital online publication, if you will. We were interviewing and profiling women executives, founders, their businesses, highlighting the different women's organizations, and doing a whole curated events directory. And again, the likes of COVID and the pandemic, got the better of us, and we actually shut down. But in late December 2021, I kind of did like a soft relaunch of W Collective, and then did a more formal relaunch in June of last year, and pivoted and really kind of like going back to my roots, if you will, which is event production, as well as DEI consulting. All right, so, well, what is networking in the first place? Well, networking is really about establishing and nurturing long-term, mutually beneficial relationships with the people you meet. And that, I think, is really the best definition for it, because I think that, you can actually have networking be quite superficial, and then it's not as beneficial as it could be. I really think it is about going deeper with why you're networking, who you're networking with, where you're networking, so that you really are establishing beneficial relationships. And so, why is networking even important? Well, networking can allow you to meet your next partner, client, mentor, whatever maybe your needs are. It helps you to stay on top of the latest industry trends, in the sense of, there are different events going on, talking about different industry trends depending upon what industry you follow. It is a great way to keep on top of the job market. It is a great way to develop and improve your skill set. So that event might be a workshop, talking about maybe it's, marketing or social media or SEO or whatever that looks like. So attending those events are fabulous for developing and improving your skill set. And obviously, it's about investing in relationships that can really and hopefully pay back tenfold. And I thought that this last statement was very interesting, but I feel that it is quite true that the most connected, quote unquote, the most connected people are often the most successful. Could be some argument there, I'm not sure, but I thought that that was a very interesting statement. So when should you be networking? Well, you should absolutely be networking for your job search. And I've done that. So I've definitely used networking in multiple different ways, right? For the job search, for developing my career, when I was, building business or initiative. So all of those things I think are fairly obvious. A couple that I wanted to bring up that maybe are not so obvious is when you are new to a city. So because I've moved around a lot in my life, and as I mentioned, I've lived specifically in 8 different cities. Networking has hands down made a huge difference in my life. When I first went to New York, when I first moved to Los Angeles, San Francisco. I mean, I can list out all the different cities. What I do there, and I pass this on to say that this should be maybe even part of your strategy, if you will. Is I always look at, what are the key tech companies in that community? Who are some of the key people in that community in general? Who are maybe some of the key entrepreneurs, VCs, startups, all of those different things I kind of hone in on, that allows me to get a sense of what is happening in that community, what types of companies make up that community, and who are the people behind it. So I've always encouraged, my friends that are moving to a new city, like that's like one of the first things that you're going to do. And then you're going to like get your butt out there to those events so that you can start to build your social capital. So how then do you become an effective networker? I think that you definitely have to get to know your style, because we all have different things that I think we gravitate towards, right? Um, do you tend to enjoy going to conferences? Or do you like the more, general meetups, if you will, more of those like monthly kind of events that happen on a regular basis? Do you like virtual, like we're doing today? And so I think that like once you maybe get a sense of what your style is in terms of the types of events that you like to go to, then you start to do your research based on that. I will say, kind of creating a mix of that and going to those different events and attending those different style events is important, because that's where you're going to kind of cast the widest net in terms of building up your network. Introvert versus extrovert. I probably would like to call myself an ambivert. I don't know if any of you know that term. It's kind of like a mix of the two. And I'm very much like that. I'm very much like on, when I'm out there, networking, and then I really just have to like shut it off, and I don't want to like talk to anyone. I don't want to like expend any more energy. But in talking about this, obviously an extrovert is going to be much more comfortable in that like 20,000 person summit, right? Versus maybe an introvert will be much more comfortable with that one-on-one type of connection. My recommendation is that you really are going to do a mix of both. um, uh, because depending upon who you meet, where you meet, and what your business needs are, when you go to a 20,000 person event, you'll be able to, right, hit up many, many people and then foster the relationships from there. And then with those relationships, you probably will want to find that opportunity to actually meet with them on a one-on-one basis. So you kind of want to do a mix of the two. I also recommend volunteering. I think volunteering is such a great way to network. You're kind of killing two birds with one stone. So you're getting out there to network, but then you're also kind of giving back. So that's also a great way to get out there and to network. So then how do you find networking opportunities? Co-working spaces are definitely a great choice in terms of definitely kind of keeping up to date with more of like the meetup type of events that are going on. So obviously here in the greater Salt Lake area, Kiln is amazing. They do such a great job of producing regular events, bringing the community together and their tenants together for their events. LinkedIn, as we all know, I spend like abnormal amounts of time on LinkedIn. But I actually make a concerted effort to spend time there, like to invest time in LinkedIn. And, as I say here, follow certain people or companies, hashtags. They finally, I don't know how long they've had like, this events in space on their website, but a lot of people have started using that more so than even posting an event up Facebook. So definitely take some time there and really hone in on, who are the people that are producing events, what are their companies, where are they producing their events, follow them, connect with them. It's just a really great way to find out what's going on. Event apps. I would say I've been using the event apps less recently. So typically I would go to Eventbrite and Meetup and just to see what is going on. I will say that I'm probably spending more time focused on LinkedIn to find out what events are going on there. Also a mix of Instagram. So depending upon where you spend your time from that social media standpoint, you can certainly find a lot of great, contacts and connections there to keep on top of the events in your area. So of course, networking is one thing, building relationships is another. So you're not just gonna network and then just, build up like a ton of contacts, right? Without actually nurturing those contacts. And so I just wanted to go over, a couple of ways in which I foster those relationships, and I highly encourage you to do the same. So one is, would you be able to provide value in any way? And that could be, maybe you've met someone and their company is putting on an event. Maybe you want to volunteer for that event. One that means that you're taking like interest in their company and in that person and what they're doing. But then the flip side of that is volunteering at that event gets you in front of a ton of more people to continue building your network. Maybe you could support them in their recruiting efforts, right? So if they maybe put up a post on LinkedIn that they're looking for whatever that role is, you could share that post, right? And then finally, I say amplify, their business in any way. So again, recruiting, maybe they just like closed a round of funding. Maybe they even have like an accolade. Maybe they were, named like 30 people to watch somewhere. So I think like amplifying that business or that person, just kind of shows that you are taking an active interest in who they are and their company. Definitely stay in touch. I spend a lot of time, paying attention to like what type of announcements are people putting out there, right? So did they get a promotion? Did they get a new job? If they did, congratulate them. Did their company maybe get a recent round of funding or any kind of accolade or recognition or a press release on something? Reach out to them and say, hey, like congratulations on whatever that is. You can simply even just say hi, check in with them, see how they're doing. What's the latest with you? That's always really nice. And I would say that try to do it maybe on a monthly basis, depending upon what your goals are. I would say on a minimum quarterly basis, because again, you want to be able to continually nurture that relationship. And finally, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. So after a meeting, send a thank you email right away. I'll have a meeting, I'll go back to my car, I'm sending that thank you email right then and there. I'm not wasting any time. And I'm more mindful of it right now because I live up in Heber. So it's like a time, management thing as well. But I would say no matter what that looks like for you, definitely just get out that email right away. If you've seen them at an event, message them and be like, hey, it was great to see you at this event, just kind of like paying attention to and acknowledging that you've seen them. And definitely keep a log of who those people are, when you're following up with them, why. I think we all have our way of doing that. I tend to gravitate towards, Google Sheets, could be Excel, it could be, a CMS system for you, like HubSpot, whatever that is, but definitely make sure that you're logging that activity in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so you've been networking for a period of time. You've been building and nurturing those relationships. So now you're thinking to yourself, okay, I would love to be able to, secure, and we're saying potential partners, it could be anything, right? It could be securing a client, whatever that looks like for you. But first and foremost is that you need to identify your needs. So are you looking for sponsors? Maybe you're looking for a board advisor. Maybe you're looking for a marketing partner. Whatever those needs are, definitely identify which ones you feel are the most important to you in terms of being able to secure that potential partner or client. What is your approach? This to me has gotten really tricky in the last couple of years. Email sometimes is just a really dark hole for some people. What I've been doing is I've been making note of definitely connecting with them on LinkedIn and then making sure that I've got their full contact information. That is email and phone. So connecting with them on LinkedIn and then making sure that I have their contact information. when I am able to actually text message someone, to me, that is your best level of direct communication. And of course, a person has to be comfortable with that. But I think that if you are really serious about, locking in that person, their company as a potential partner, I think you want to be able to develop that relationship to that point that you can text them. And sometimes your approach is going to be, a multiple of ways, right? So you might start by direct messaging them on LinkedIn. Depending upon the response, you'll probably want to send an email or vice versa. So your approach might be, a multi-pronged way. It might not just be one way. Your materials. Do you have a corporate deck, a media kit, a one sheet? What are you sending to this person? It could be just as simple as an email, but make sure that you, no matter how you're corresponding with them, that whatever materials that you would like to send them, that is ready to go. And finally, your timeline. This can be really tricky. I've been able to, lock potential partners in less than a month. One potential partner I'm working with right now, we've been talking since June of last year. So, it just really depends upon your timeline for what that business need is. Sometimes it will be swift where it could be, a month turnaround that you can secure them. Sometimes it's going to be longer, and especially with a larger corporate company. And finally, I wanted to just do a little, plug here about partnership marketing. I actually think that, and this is just me, but I feel as though that it is an overlooked aspect of business. Most of my life, I've focused in on partnership marketing. I find it to be one of the most effective ways in terms of brand awareness, generating revenue, whatever, again, your needs are for your business. But I find it to be just an awesome aspect from that business development standpoint. So what are some benefits of partnership marketing? Definitely increases your reach, right? Definitely cost effective, depending upon what that looks like for you. Definitely can add value to both, right? To you and that partner that you're working with, right? To really kind of add value to both of your audiences. You could get access to unique resources. So if you partner with a company that's, 5 times as big as you, more of an audience, I mean, that in and of itself is an awesome resource for you. Definitely increases brand awareness, can improve revenue. And I think the final thing is about also building your brand trust, right? So if you've partnered with a really reputable company, that kind of in and of itself positions you in your company where okay, I trust this company because they've partnered with this company. Types of partnership marketing, influencer marketing, as we all well know, affiliate marketing, sponsorships, co-branding, content marketing, cross-promotion marketing, referral marketing, and product placement type of marketing. Those are just some. There's a few others. But I would really take a deeper look at partnership marketing. Because if you think about it, right, you're networking, you're building relationships, you're hoping to secure partners, but then what can you do with those partners? What does that partnership look like to you? And can you really come together with a partner from that marketing standpoint? That's it. So that's a little bit about networking, building relationships, and securing partners.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. There's not really a way to do applause on these Zoom calls, but I think if there was, we would do it. There's a couple of questions in the chat. You okay if we take a couple of those?
Yeah, and I'll stop sharing my screen. All right.
Okay, so you might have covered this, but just to make sure, Kevin had asked, how or which platform are you using to log and keep track of your follow-up? And I think you mentioned that you're doing that like Google Sheets or Excel, but do you have any other tips or things that would relate to that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that with the work that I'm doing, the people that I'm connecting with, I have definitely used Google Sheets mostly. I've dabbled with HubSpot, but I just felt that in terms of like my time management, I didn't want to take away to like learn a whole new kind of CMS system, right? In order to continue doing the work that I'm doing and connecting with those people. I think that, as time goes on and I'm able to grow in a certain way, I will definitely want to adopt, a much more robust kind of platform. And maybe that it's a multi-pronged platform, right? Where that I can use it to kind of keep track of, clients and connections and whatnot. And that maybe there's, additional aspects like project management, that kind of thing. But for right now, it's Google Sheets.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, Parker had a question. He says, let's say I have 700 connections on LinkedIn. How should I be looking at this list to identify who I should be following up with monthly or quarterly? Any suggestion on prioritizing these relationships?
That's an awesome question. And what I do is I'll go through my connections. One is I kind of almost look like, okay, and it's hard to do this because, again, it's time management, right? It's like you don't want to take away from the work that you need to do to like curate, your LinkedIn list. But I think that every now and again, you should, because I think that you really want to be able to make sure that you are, connected to the right people, both in terms of who you just want to generally follow, but then who you actually want to develop a relationship with. What I tend to do is probably maybe more on a quarterly basis. I'll go through, I'll be like, okay, did anyone like, change jobs, launch a company, get funding, that kind of thing. I'll also even just look at that and be like, okay, well, when's the last time that I even reached out to them? And in terms of prioritizing relationships, again, that really goes with your business needs, right? So you have to really identify what are your business needs. And I feel like that will naturally help you to prioritize those relationships.
That's
That's
great.
awesome.
Thank you. Mhm.
You're welcome.
I had a question too, which was so specifically for, I appreciate the ambivert comment like that. But for people who are shy or maybe they have social anxiety or maybe it's not clinical, but they're like it's not easy for them to meet new people. And any tips for them to either, I don't know if it's ice breaking tips or things for them to be thinking about that to help them kind of overcome the mental and emotional hurdles of networking.
Yeah. And this is definitely a real thing. And and I realize that for me and for some people it's supernatural and for others it isn't. And I would just kind of take the case of, let's say you're at an event and there's a good maybe 50, 60 people there, which is like a decent size, and you've been maybe like communicating with someone on LinkedIn lightly, right? So there hasn't been like a full connection made there, but you know of each other. And so like if you see that person at the event, honestly, sometimes it's about just like taking a deep breath and just walking up to them and and introducing yourself as the icebreaker. Sometimes I realize that that can be an awkward moment because let's say that person's talking to someone else and it is awkward, but you kind of have to do it where you have to just walk over and just hover there, until, because that they'll acknowledge you, right? And then you don't want to be rude because you want that person to finish their conversation. But I think that like when the time is right, you just kind of introduce yourself. maybe you just even jump into the conversation. But I think that it is awkward. I've been in that position so many times, but I feel as though that like if you're not making a concerted effort to like put yourself in that position, you lose out on actually having that in-person connection, right? That chance to actually connect with that person in real life and then continue to develop the relationship from there. So, and the other thing that I would say is, and I am very intentional with this, is it's not about you, it's about them. So like, don't jump into a whole tirade about this is me and who I do. Not at all. Just like, I mean, I'm so conscious of this. I do this with friends. I do this with family. I have found that in the world that we live in, and maybe it's a nerves thing as well, that it's almost easier, right, to kind of like talk about yourself. But I think that like the golden, ticket, like the winning thing is that being actually interested in that person. Like there's something really special about that. And I think even more so post-pandemic is to be like, of course, say hi, I'm Robyn, da da da. But just be like, maybe they're a panel, I really loved what you had to say about blah, blah, blah. Or, I heard that your company is hiring. Or even if you get into a more like casual conversation, ask them like, are you originally from Utah? If not, where are they from? So I just think that it is vitally important to have an honest interest in that person before you jump in talking about yourself.
That's fantastic. Let's see, there's a couple more questions. Then maybe if you share if is it okay for people to reach out and connect with you post this? And
Yeah.
Also, would you mind sharing your slides with this group, and we can send that out with the recording? If that's okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, so Brittany asked, are there any organizations that you recommend volunteering at?
Yes. Gosh, let's see. And it depends, right? Again, like, like what you want to be involved in. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. So for example, there's like maybe some of the obvious ones, and this might skew like women focused, but I can't help myself, guys. But, Tech Moms is great. So this is Trina Limpert. She's developed a whole course about helping women develop tech skills so that they're able to get jobs in the tech sector. There's obviously like Women Tech Council. One of the things that they do each year is, I believe it's the She Tech Conference, where they host an all-day event for high school girls. That is a great event to volunteer at. I'm trying to think. There's, venturecapital.org. I think that you can kind of volunteer as a mentor. I'm trying to think what are some of the others. Like there's the Utah Black Chamber, if you want to get involved with that. I'd say between, supporting women, supporting, underrepresented groups, people of color, that's obviously like my wheelhouse. It might not be yours. But I think that there is a website, and I'd have to like think of the name of it, but they list every possible organization across the state. Other organizations that I love, Best Friends, huge fan of them. Nuzzles and Co is another one. So that's in a totally different space. But that's a great way to actually be connected to maybe people that you wouldn't normally be connected with in that more tech startup, business world. The Sundance Institute. I mean, the Sundance Film Festival just ended. I was sad that I wasn't able to partake in more of that, but if you are really interested in supporting like that kind of organization, you can actually help to volunteer during the film festival, which is a really awesome experience because it actually brings together both like arts and entertainment. You know, a lot of tech companies and startups are getting involved with that as well to support the arts and entertainment. So just a couple of there that I'd recommend.
That's fantastic. Okay, let's slip in one more question from Parker. He's saying, if you're at a networking event, how can you leave one conversation so that you can, have another conversation without offending anybody? Which I think is a great question, because it's like, oh wait, there's that person, but I'm talking to this person, and I want to be present with the person I'm talking to. And so I think, how do you navigate that kind of trickiness?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's awkward like starting a conversation, and then there's awkward leaving a conversation. I think that you just have to say, hey, if you don't mind, there's a couple of people that I would love to just say hi to. It was great meeting you. Like, let's connect on LinkedIn. So this is what I typically do. So I'll be, chit chatting with someone, and that happens, right? Like out of the corner of your eye, right? Or depending upon like who's around you, you're like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure that I talk to like these 3 other people, right? And so once you feel that you can, just be like, hey, I definitely want to be able to meet a couple more people. Like, whip out your phones, make sure that you're connecting on LinkedIn. Does everyone know about the QR code on LinkedIn? So I live and die by that. So where you get to it is you click so you tap the search bar, the QR code would be on the right-hand side. You click that. And so someone can either scan your QR code or you can scan theirs. You're instantly connected. What I tend to do there is if the person has connected with me, I ask them, please send a DM message as well, because sometimes you forget. I mean, if you're connecting with like 10 people in one night, how do you keep track of that? So if they have connected with me, I ask them to send me a DM. If I've connected with them, I send them a DM, and I kind of go back to my DMs to see, who I've reached out to. But that's the best way to do it, right? So it's like, this has been great to meet you. Make sure that you're at least connected by LinkedIn, and then you just move on to the next person.
That's fantastic. I want to take a moment. We're a little bit over our regular time. And so if anybody has to drop off, I think that's great. Not that I want you to drop off, feel free. But Robyn, if you don't mind, there's one more question from Dale that I think, Dale, do you want to just unmute yourself and ask your question? Did we?
Here we lost him. I see it. I see his question.
Okay.
So
about network fatigue.
Nope. Okay. So yeah, on networking fatigue, sometimes I feel like I've done so much networking that I'm losing focus on my objective. Is that a thing? Yes, totally, which is why I'm an ambivert. Because you get to a point where you're so exhausted. I mean, even sometimes that like my throat and my chest are so exhausted from, talking and connecting with people that I really have to just, just shut down. I think there's definitely networking fatigue is definitely a thing. And that's when I feel that you have to pick and choose which events and what types of places you are going to network and who you're networking with. I will say at one point in time, I probably was going to like 3 or 4 events a week, but that's also because that during that time, I was unemployed. So I was making a concerted effort to just like get out there as much as possible. And that can definitely be exhausting. So I feel that if networking fatigue comes like quickly, I would just make sure that one, when you're in a really kind of like loud, crazy noisy event with like 100 people, be really mindful of who you're connecting with, how many people you're connecting with. And even when you talk, this sounds maybe odd, is just like take your time talking. If you feel that you don't even want to get into like a huge conversation with someone, just even say, like, hey, just wanted to come over and say hi. I would love to connect on LinkedIn, and then just go on your merry way, right? And then maybe you can find another opportunity to reach out to them, you know, by messaging them on LinkedIn and then meeting for coffee and then having like a much more productive connection with that person. So I would say just be mindful of what you feel you can, you know, ultimately accomplish at an event. But I would definitely be a huge proponent of maybe you've gone up to 3 people. Hey, just wanted to meet you. Would love to connect on LinkedIn. You make the connection and then you go on your merry way. I think that that is great too. And then you can invest that time, like when you get back in front of your computer, to reach out to them and then, you know, find a time to meet.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Content is wonderful. Really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and sharing your wisdom, Robyn. Thanks everybody. That is it for Midday Connect this week. I think